Hello, and welcome. Welcome once again to the Secrets of the High Demand Coach. And I am here with yet another Scott. We have with us today Scott Mautz, who's the author of The Mentally Strong Leader. He's also the founder and CEO of Profound Performance, a keynote training and coaching company. Scott is a former Procter & Gamble executive who successfully ran four of the company's largest multi-billion-dollar businesses. He's also a multi-award-winning author of Leading from the Middle, Find the Fire, and Make It Matter. Scott has been named a CEO Thought Leader by Chief Executives Guild and a Top 50 Leadership Innovator by Inc.com. He's a faculty member on reserve at Indiana University's Kelley School of Business for Executive Education and a top instructor at LinkedIn Learning. And if that wasn't enough, he is here with us today. Well, Scott, thanks so much for being here. What a privilege and honor having you. Welcome to the show. I want to dive straight in, if that's okay with you, and talk about this idea that you've laid out of being mentally strong. And as I was researching, as I was reading a little bit through your book, I came across a statistic that you laid out in there about what folks tend to appreciate most in a leader. And I think it would be surprising to a lot of folks. So what are some of the key traits, what is the key trait even, that folks appreciate in their leaders?
Yeah, well, as you say, Scott, it's in the title of the book, the mentally strong leader. And I think what's probably easiest to lay out is to start with a definition of mental strength, if I may. Mental strength is, let me start with what it's not. Mental strength is not just EQ, which of course is something that everybody appreciates in their leader. EQ being emotional intelligence. It's the ability to get your emotions working for you versus against you. The thing we've been hearing about more than any other leadership discipline for the last decade, right? EQ is just a slice of the broader umbrella of what our research has shown us people really appreciate about their leaders, especially in times of adversity. Mental strength, then, by definition, is the ability to regulate not only your emotions, Scott, productively, but also the ability to regulate your thoughts and your behaviors, despite the circumstances, even in adversity, and I would argue, especially in adversity. It's how we manage internally so that we can lead better externally at work and in life. And to get directly to your question, what we saw in our research is that mental strength exists of 6 core mental muscles: fortitude, confidence, boldness, decision-making, the ability to make great decisions and to be decisive, goal focus, the ability to stay focused on your goals and keep the troops focused on their goals, and messaging, the ability to stay positive-minded, even in the face of negativity, so that the vibe you're sending out to the troops is a positive one. It's the collection of these 6 mental muscles that equates to mental strength, and we have found it to correlate uniquely with an organization's ability to win, especially in times of adversity, right? Does that make sense, Scott?
Yeah, it's fantastic. So, it's one of those things, I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it was the guy who much of Band of Brothers was based on. I could be getting this wrong, but he said, everyone's a hero until the bullets start flying, right? You don't know what you're made of until it gets hard. And that was the thing that I appreciated as I was looking at this, is it's not just being smart when things are going well. It's not about being a brilliant strategist, although that's a function of it. It's how well does that hold up under stress? And so why is it in your work, why is it that adversity is such a big piece of the equation?
Well, I think it's because of the work world we live in, and as you think about it, Scott, I think your listeners, we all intuitively understand that if you want to succeed at work and in life, you have to be able to self-regulate. You have to be able to regulate your emotions. You can't just emote whatever you want and let that convert right into action. You can't just do whatever you want. You can't just think anything you want and convert that into your behaviors. We all know that you have to self-regulate to be successful at work and in life, but here's the thing. Breaking news for you here. It's really hard to do that. Really hard to self-regulate. It's why it requires building up the habits to do so over time. And in today's work world, here's the thing. Mental strength is only going to become more and more important because there's only going to be more and more adversity. We live in a country now where some could argue that we have a hard time agreeing on what the facts are. We live in a world where there's more and more distractions every single day. There's more and more opportunities for us to lose our focus, more and more chances for us to feel a spark of self-doubt deep within inside of us for whatever reason. And it's not just my opinion, it is fact. It is behavioral economics fact. We can see the world is getting more and more tumultuous, more and more opportunity for adversity and setback faces us than prior generations. And we have to work through all of that with mental strength. It's what makes, in my opinion, Scott, mental strength the leadership superpower of our times. I believe it is the next EQ that you're going to be hearing about for the next 2 decades, especially because EQ is just a slice of the broader, more empowering benefit that is mental strength.
Yeah. You mentioned something in there that everyone resonates with, but I think feels like they're the only one that resonates with it. And it's the presence of self-doubt. Yeah. There are so many executives and entrepreneurs and founders that I work with that are just massively successful individuals. And you get just a step behind the curtain and it's all kind of, hanging on a thread, right? They deal with imposter syndrome on a daily basis. Why is it that self-doubt is so prevalent in leaders today?
Because of this, Scott. We make a well-meaning mistake, well-intended, but we're not aware that we're doing it. And I say we, the collective population, your listeners, all of us. Most people, again, this is not my opinion, this is research backed. Most people mistakenly believe that confidence is the absence of doubt. It is not. Confidence is your ability to manage your relationship with doubt. Because we all have that relationship, Scott. And I have interviewed thousands and thousands of executives for the Mentally Strong Leader, the book. And I can tell you with great certainty that not even the mentally strongest, most confident leaders that I interviewed, not even them would say, oh, doubt is never present. It's just completely absent. Yeah. So we self-generate doubt because doubt is present. And we assume because doubt is present, we must not be confident. And because we assume we're not confident, that creates more doubt, and it creates a vicious spiral. When in truth, doubt is always there for all of us. It's how we manage our relationship with it.
Yeah. Wow. I absolutely love that. So as you're talking about becoming mentally stronger, I keep getting this picture of Jack Bauer. You remember 24? And he'd always find himself in really bad situations. You know what I mean? And they're trying to break him, and everyone has a number. It's like, is that how we get mentally stronger? Is that what it takes? What do we actually do to build those core mental muscles?
The first thing to do is to understand where you're starting from, Scott. And in the Mentally Strong Leader, in Chapter 2, actually, the reader could take a mental strength self-assessment. It's 50 questions that I work with the data scientists to, it took me several years to develop and to codify so that you can understand by the time you're done. All it takes is 15 minutes of quiet reflection. And all that I ask from the reader is that they're honest and that they're vulnerable in their answers. And after that 15-minute, 50-question self-exam, you get an overall mental strength score, and you could see what tier you fall in. And then you also get a score by mental muscle. So I was saying before, the 6 core mental muscles are fortitude, confidence, boldness, decision-making, goal focus, and messaging. You get a score by each one of those so that you can then determine what muscles do I want to level up, which ones do I just need to maintain. And here's the thing, Scott, and I think this is really important for your listeners to understand. That doesn't mean that your job is to attack every single muscle all at once. Think of your mental muscles like your physical muscles, right? If you're going to go to the gym, and let's say you decided you're going to go tomorrow at 8 a.m., you wouldn't spend 16 hours in the gym, Scott, working every single muscle in your body. You'd be exhausted. That routine would get old real quick. Wednesday might be back day. Thursday's leg day. Friday's arm and stomach day. I don't know. But so it works with your mental muscles. You work them over time. You create your own customized regimen, mental strength training regimen by using the book, The Mentally Strong Leader, to figure out what muscles do you want to level up, which muscles do you want to maintain. And then the beauty of it is, Scott, is you could take the assessment repeatedly over time to see where you're improving. Yeah. But it starts by knowing what your baseline is, and then using the host of habit-building tools in the book, over 50-plus tools, to develop each mental strength muscle.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up because I've found a couple of things. One, I've found that it is very similar to strength training in the gym in that the energy it takes to maintain is so far less than what it takes to build those in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think one of the key reasons for that, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because it was a big part of the book, a key reason for that differential is that when you do it right, when you build the right habits, it takes some work to get those habits in place, but they can become nearly automatic when we move to maintenance mode. Is that what you found? And if so, what are some of the kind of keystone habits around mental strength?
Yeah. So Scott, for example, we all know that, I set up the premise that we know we have to self-regulate. I think people may not understand how important mental strength is and is becoming. I really believe it's the leadership superpower of our times. You're going to be hearing about it more than anything else in the next 10 years. That said, it's hard. We established that. The help, the arm around you, that help is habits. And the whole book is imbued with habit building science. And I'll give you just 3 examples of that. So for example, if you think about it, Scott, what is a habit? A habit is really repetitions, doing the same thing repeatedly until you don't even have to think about it anymore. It almost becomes part of your muscle memory. And so the book contains systems and frameworks to help you get those repetitions in place. So when I say, loosely, there's over 50 plus tools in the book, what I mean is there's over 50 plus systems, frameworks, step-by-step methodologies to help you build the habits to become mentally stronger. And then each habit building tool has 2 sections that are straight from habit building science. The first one is, what is your first small step that you're going to take to build this particular habit? What's that first thing you do? Because we know, research shows us that many habits never form, Scott, because people don't know how to get started. Likewise, with the second thing that's included in every single tool in the Mentally Strong Leader, which is a section titled, In Moments of Weakness. What do you do in moments of weakness when you can feel things starting to break down? We'll go back to the confidence muscle again as an example.
Yeah.
I was recently working with a client who is pretty darn confident, and they experienced a major setback. They were in a session at work, a meeting at work that was a big deal for them. It was a big presentation, and it didn't go well. The boss asked questions that they weren't expecting. They weren't prepared for these particular questions. They came out of that meeting with their confidence spiraling. And it took, some time for me to help him get back to, okay, this is a moment of weakness and let's understand this. Here are the things you need to do to get right back on track to keep that muscle strong. We need to know what to do with that in each habit building case, right? Does that make sense, Scott?
Yeah, it does. It's so profound. And I think many times what gets us off is we don't ever prepare for those, right? We think like if a moment of weakness comes, but in reality, it's when the moment of weakness comes.
And it will come.
Yeah, and it will come. I absolutely love that. Give us an example, if you don't mind, of one of your favorite habits that you uncovered in the process of writing this book.
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's so many. I could pick so many, but I'll just share one that's pretty easy because it also has a fun story behind it. So in the boldness muscle section, right? Boldness is a key part of mental strength. And maybe not the first one you always think of, but when I say boldness, I'm talking about, boldness, Scott, is something it's a direct pathway to growth, right? It forces you, if you have a bold mindset, it forces you to push your thinking, get out of grooves, get out of ruts, take risks. Not always easy for us to do. Some of us are just inherently not risk takers. So I'm going to tell you a quick story about a thing that, I came across that you can do too as a leader to create a spirit of risk-taking and thus boldness and create a mentally stronger organization. So I'll start with a quick story. Let me ask you this. Scott, have you ever been to a casino before?
I haven't actually.
Well, if you're not missing much in my opinion, but whatever. So I had let's say a keynote and a workshop with a casino company in Las Vegas. They called me in, and I was going to dinner with the executives on that team the night before I was going to give my keynote and do my workshop for this leadership team. And we were having dinner, and over drinks and such, they were telling me about a throughput problem that they were having on the casino floor. Meaning, there was one game in particular on the casino floor where the ratio of people standing around watching the game, not spending money on it, to the number of people that were actually spending their money on the game, it was so out of whack that it was causing an unproductive bottleneck in the casino floor.
Wow.
Now, because you weren't on, you've never not been in a casino, I'll cut to the punchline of this. The game is called craps. Craps is a game you play with dice. You roll the dice into a pit and you bet on the outcome. And for listeners at home, if you Google what a craps table looks like, just go Google craps table and you see it. It is incredibly intimidating, very confusing to look at. There's a box, all kinds of boxes and squares and check marks and places on, okay, place this bet here, place that bet. And it's very, very intimidating. What the casino executives were learning was that people were literally not stepping up and rolling the dice. And if you've ever heard that term, it comes from Las Vegas, step up and roll the dice. They were not stepping up and rolling the dice and spending their money because they didn't understand the rules of the game.
Wow.
Meanwhile, back at the office, Scott, people will not step up and roll the dice. They won't step up and take risks.
Yeah.
If they don't understand the rules of risk-taking.
Yeah.
There are 20 questions in the book, The Mentally Strong Leader, that you can use as a leader to spell out to your organization the rules of risk-taking. For example, okay, what does a good risk look like? Define it. What does a bad one look like? What happens when you succeed with a risk, fail with a risk? Who needs to approve what level of risk, and so on and so on and so on. Once you spell out, these are the rules of risk-taking, you will have a mentally stronger, more bold organization that feels more empowered to take the risks that you want them to as a leader.
Wow. Remarkable insight. I absolutely love that. So, Scott, there's this question that I like to ask all my guests, and it is this. What would you say is the biggest secret that you wish wasn't a secret at all? What's that one thing you wish everybody watching or listening today knew?
The thing I wish I knew earlier in my career, Scott, which is stop chasing approval, start chasing authenticity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so good. So good. So, Scott, there's some folks listening today. They're just resonating with every bit of it, right? They recognize they're not the only one with self-doubt. They want to build a bolder organization. They want to become a mentally stronger leader. What can they do? How can they find more out about you, the work that you do, and get a copy of your book?
Yeah, you can go to scottmautz.com, SCOTTMAUTZ.com. And you can find out about all my books there, including The Mentally Strong Leader, the workshops I do on mental strength, the keynotes I deliver on mental strength. And also I put together a premium, kind of a free giveaway for your audience today. If your audience is interested in a free 60-page PDF that includes the mental strength self-assessment that I was talking about earlier, as well as questions to help you, prompts, if you will, to get the most out of the book, The Mentally Strong Leader, just go to scottmautz.com/mentally strong book, and you can download that 60-page PDF for free. Again, that's scottmautz.com/mentally strong book. Oh, excuse me. Right. I said mentally strong book. It's mentally strong gift. My bad. scottmautz.com/mentally strong gift if you want the free PDF.
Fantastic. We will get that in the show notes, the right URL, so everyone can get to that easily. Scott, before I let you go, there's one question I want to ask, because we've got a lot of folks who are in a similar space to you and I. They're coaches, consultants, speakers. What's one piece of advice that you'd give to another coach or consultant listening today?
I think never underestimate the value that you bring to people. And for coaches out there, I've always found, just a very practical kind of tip, I've always found it very helpful to don't get into the game where you're negotiating on an hourly basis. Sell a benefit to the client. So, dear coaching client, you want to become more confident. Okay. You want to become mentally stronger. Okay. You want to be promoted into that role. That's the benefit you sell. And then you tell them how many coaching sessions it will take to get to that benefit. But you sell and you price based on the benefit, not individual outings for coaching. That's my personal opinion. I found it to be helpful.
That's fantastic. Well, Scott, thank you so much for being on. Just a privilege having you here today. For those of you watching and listening, you know that your time and attention mean the world to us. I hope you got as much out of this conversation as I know I did, and I cannot wait to see you next time. Take care.